Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sammasambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sammasambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sammasambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Sangham saranam gacchami, Tatayampi Buddham saranam gacchami, Tatayampi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Tatayampi Sangham saranam gacchami. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas. May I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas. May I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas. May I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May they be free from suffering and its causes. May they never be parted from their happiness beyond suffering. May they abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment to the near, and aversion from the far. I shall cause this. Great compassionate Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every types of offerings, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all of my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in all the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until cyclic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for all sentient beings. I dedicate the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. However innumerable all sentient beings are, I vow to save them all. However inexhaustible my delusions are, I vow to extinguish them all. However immeasurable the Dharma teachings are, I vow to master them all. However endless the Buddha's way is, I vow to follow it completely. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Dayata Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Soha. Dayata Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Soha. Tayatam gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhi soha. So I hope everybody is doing well, wherever you are on this amazing planet that we live on, that we need to take care of, just as we need to take care of ourselves and others as much as we can. Of course, we're limited at the moment, but our intention should be the Bodhicitta intention, the great altruistic intention, or the great compassion. Okay, so that should be, if you do that, if that's underlying all of your practice, like sincerely, genuinely, then actually all of your deeds are good deeds and create merit. So we aim towards that. So now you can just forget everything I just said briefly, and let's do some meditation. Okay. So get yourself comfortable, not rigid, not slouching forward either. And bring your mind to release the tension in the body, starting at the tips of your toes and then working your way up to your shoulders, down to the tips of your fingers, and then back up to the top of your head. So we'll just take a little while to do this. And once you've done this, just scan your body briefly again, and just to see if you can get rid of any more tension. And now bring your focus to initially the tip of your nose and the breathing process, or the feeling of the breathing as you breathe in and out of your lungs. If thoughts arise or any mental activity arises, don't cling to it or grasp at it. Also, don't try to forcefully push it away, because that adds extra mental activity. But also don't try to deny it either. Just let the thoughts or the mental activities come and go naturally by replacing your mind onto your breath. And if your mind starts to become a little bit fuzzy, a little bit warm and fuzzy, as I say often, or dull and sleepy, then wake it up a little bit by focusing more brightly on the breath. This way, refocusing or replacing the mind back onto the breath becomes the antidote for both a distracted and agitated mind, as well as the dull mind. So let's practice like this for a few minutes in silence. Don't try too hard, don't try too little. Not too tight, not too loose. Middle path. So now you can feel very pleased with yourself for engaging in the practice. And fill yourself with universal loving kindness. With acceptance, friendship, forgiveness, appreciation, gratitude to yourself and within yourself. And now have your loving kindness radiate outwards as well, to include your loved ones, your family and your friends. May they be happy, free from suffering, and be peaceful. And gradually now radiate your loving kindness now further and further to also include strangers. May they be happy, free from suffering, and be peaceful. Now also to those that you may regard as difficult, may even regard them as enemies. May they also be happy, free from suffering, and be peaceful. Just a little note there. Sometimes people have said that it's difficult to extend the loving kindness to those that you regard as enemies. But think about it. If they were happy, it means they're engaging in virtuous actions of body, speech, mind, the causes of happiness. It also means that they are refraining from engaging in the causes of suffering, the non-virtuous mind, and also speech and actions. And if they are peaceful, it means they're not irritating or frustrating. Just keep that in mind if you find it difficult. May all of these people be happy and have the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and free from the causes of suffering. May they be peaceful and free from conflict. Now radiate this loving kindness out further still to include all of those living beings that live around your immediate area. The ones that are born from wombs, from eggs, from moisture, and through transformation. Whether they live on the land, under the land, in the waters, fly through the air. Extend your loving kindness to all of these beings. And further now to pervade your whole state or county. And other states and counties throughout your whole country. And other countries, initially those you're familiar with and have an affinity towards. Also to those that you don't know much about. And also to those that, for whatever reason, you may have some sort of negative feeling towards. You know, all of the living beings within these countries, throughout the whole world, be happy, free from suffering, and be peaceful. And now through other worlds, throughout the whole solar system. and other solar systems throughout the whole galaxy. And other galaxies throughout this vast universe. And have your loving kindness pervade throughout infinite space now. This limitless loving kindness, this immeasurable loving kindness, which is coming from your own mind. And realize that you are interconnected with all living beings and throughout infinite space. And at the same time, be present here and now, and we'll recite the dedication prayer. Due to this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of the Buddha, so that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious bodhicitta, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. And may the precious pure of shunyata, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. And I'll start today's Dharma Talk by just answering a query that I just got a few minutes before class in relation to my quote, "The bodhisattvas fear the cause, ordinary beings fear the effect." This is talking about the law of karma, cause and effect, or karma and vipaka. So what I like to call the universal law of karma. And just briefly, you know, when we say bodhisattvas, these obviously are living beings that have developed or developing the bodhicitta to a great extent, have realized, especially the higher ones that have entered what we call the bhumis, or the grounds on the way to enlightenment. They have already had a glimpse, you could say, of emptiness, of the wisdom of emptiness as well. But also all living beings that choose to practice the bodhisattva path, you could say, have a healthy fear of causing suffering for yourself and others. So that's what I mean by that fear, or that healthy fear. Whereas ordinary beings, we fear the effects. We've already made the causes. We've already, let's say, engaged in negative actions of the body, speech, and mind. And therefore, at some stage, we will experience, at that time as well, but also sometime in the future, the results of that, or the effects of that karma, or of those causes. Okay, so we tend to fear that. We fear, you know, experiencing the suffering, for instance, and also experiencing the impermanence of our happiness as well, you could say. And we should actually rather have a healthy fear. This is good fear now, okay? A healthy fear of the cause. And therefore, we are enabling ourselves to not cause the suffering effects. Does that make sense? Hopefully. So I think I'll leave it like that. I'll leave it simple, because there's also a brief explanation. I think maybe something like 3 or 4 paragraphs that I've written. I'll have a look in my files and see whether I can find that and post it on Facebook in the next few days as well. Okay, I think some of you would have seen it already. And so we are talking about the 6 paramitas, the 6 transcendental perfections. We say transcendental because it transcends the normal idea of perfect. Because the normal idea that we have, ordinary idea of perfect that we have, is the opposite of imperfect. Or perfection is the opposite of the lack of perfection. You can see how we think dualistically. But these perfections, now we are talking about the transcendental perfections, we're working beyond duality. Working to go beyond duality. That's what paramita really kind of means, is to go beyond, to the other shore, you could say, from this dangerous shore that we're on now, the dualistic shore, you could say, or conceptual shore, to then going across to the safe shore of enlightenment, okay? And so we say going beyond, and that's why we call them transcendental perfections. We've already spoken about the aspects of generosity, morality, patience, and enthusiastic effort. And now we're on to concentration, of which we started last week with a brief introduction to it. Okay, so once again, I'll remind you that in recent times, I've been reposting the teachings that I gave previously on concentration and the different aspects of concentration and the actual practice of meditation as well. And, you know, the 5 faults to be relinquished, the antidotes, and so forth. Okay, so have a look at those. Or it may be even easier for you to go to the, what's it called, YouTube channel that Leisha set up for me. I've actually, I'm up to date now with posting everything up on that. So that's Dharmacharya Andrew Williams. And you can have a look on there and subscribe to it. And then you can go in whenever you want to have a look at some teachings. Remember that I always put a little bit of text with it and to explain the main points or the main subjects covered during each class. So it's quite easy for you to pick out these ones. So I don't have to go into too much detail about certain aspects of this concentration. Okie doke. So remember last week I touched on giving up attachment to distractions. We do this, you know, we do, like I mentioned, we have a attraction and attachment to being distracted. So often we will put off our meditation practice or put off Dharma study, put off even engaging in the active practice when we're out in public and the like. And because we're looking for sometimes the right time to do it. Actually, and often if we're angry or, you know, I guess dwelling on our own faults or dwell too much or attaching to our good qualities too much pride, arrogance, and so forth, we tend to put off the Dharma practice when actually, when we're experiencing these negative, afflictive emotions, especially those, then that's when we really need to practice, because we can uproot them eventually. We can lessen them immediately by paying pure attention to them. Remember what I've said about the negative emotions or afflictive emotions. They are very shy, because when you pay pure attention to them, they melt away. Think about that. If you get angry at something, whatever it is, could be someone else, could be yourself, could be some sort of inanimate object around you. Maybe you bumped your head on something, feeling some physical pain. You get angry at it, you snap at it. Actually, when you calm your mind down and go, oh, there's that anger again, there's that old habit again. At that moment, the anger just melts away. That's why I like to say that these emotions or these afflictive emotions, that they are actually very shy. They don't like wisdom, the light of wisdom to be shone on them. You know, it's almost like you could say another maybe metaphor for them would be like flames, the flames of the afflictive emotions. But as soon as you pour the pure awareness of the Dharma, the pure water of wisdom and compassion and love and so forth on them, then it puts the fire out, you know. So practice like this. This will help your concentration when you're doing this in your everyday life, and vice versa. When you practice the meditation formally, sitting for whatever period of time, then actually this will help you to be less impulsive when you're out in public or when you're busy, you know, when you're working or studying or just doing everyday mundane chores, you know, cleaning the house or something like that. Then, or maybe you have some physical pain, a sore back, sore neck, or something like that, then actually you can deal with this better. You're not going to add to it, you know, with stress, mental stress as well, which then will cause more physical stress. Okay, so giving up attachment to the distractions. Some of you know this little anecdote as well, is that actually, if you, so often we maybe have an epiphany in a sense. We'll wake up a little bit and we go, oh, okay, I've got to practice. I really need to practice. Or maybe you wake up at nighttime and you think, oh, I should practice more. And then, of course, because of our habits, get up in the morning, and to use the metaphor, out comes the briefcase and off we go again. The cycle begins, the stress continues, so stop ourselves from that, and try not to engage in this active laziness, because it is a form of laziness, this distractedness. Okay. What notes have I written? It's actually not so difficult if we truly understand impermanence to be able to give up this attachment to distraction. Everything's constantly changing all the time. Of course, in the next aspect of these parameter commentaries, we are talking about the wisdom part, which will cover impermanence more in that. Okay, but just think about that just for a moment. Everything, our happiness doesn't last. Otherwise, we wouldn't have to worry about anything, unless, of course, we really want to become Buddha, which should be our goal. But our suffering also is impermanent, like I mentioned. That's a good thing, actually. We don't want the suffering all the time. Okay, even though samsara throughout this cyclic existence actually is pervaded by suffering. It's the very nature of this cyclic existence of cause and effect and conditions and the like. And so it's all impermanent, constantly changing. If you don't believe me, then look at a picture of when you were younger, and then look in the mirror. Whether we are older or whether we are a young person, look at when you're a child, and then you can see already, oh yes, changed. I saw a cartoon not that long ago, actually, where there was an older lady looking in the mirror, or she just had a glimpse in the mirror. She turned around, looked in the mirror, and went, "Mother, what are you doing in there?" So she like thought, hang on a minute, I haven't looked. Maybe it's like she hadn't looked in the mirror for a while and didn't realize that she'd grown so much older. She thought she was her own mother. So quite funny. So also what's impermanent is what we're attached to. So those things that we find pleasing and we attach to them, they are impermanent. So why would we, and they don't have, because of the impermanence, they don't have this permanent self. They are actually empty of self-nature. So why is it that we attach to those things, even if we find them pleasing in this moment? Why do we attach to that which is impermanent, constantly changing, and has no self-nature? And also no qualities, no texture, etc. And also, but what we have an aversion towards, what we're repulsed by, that's also impermanent. So why do we try to push it away? I'm talking about mind states as well, not just physical things that we may find repulsive. It's impermanent, so don't worry about it. Let's use the example of food to do with attachment and aversion. If you want certain foods, that's fine. You can have it as long as it's balanced diet, good for you. That's fantastic. But if you can't get that type of food, don't get upset about it. Don't be attached to that. Enjoy it, but don't attach to it. And also, if you get these foods given to you that you don't really like, actually, you have a choice. You don't have to eat them, but give up the mental aversion for them. It disturbs your mind. Or you can actually train yourself to be less picky and just eat it because it's good for you. I remember when I was a child, I used to really hate Brussels sprouts. In fact, they make me want to throw up, even just the thought of them. And actually, I really liked them. And I've mentioned this, actually today is quite funny. We actually had them today, I think, for lunch. So no problem. There's certain things, of course, in foods that we can choose to have or not to have. For instance, I've been, practicing vegetarian for about 40 years, and mostly vegan. But sometimes you have things with what do you call it, milk and stuff like that in it. It's okay, but that's the choice. But am I repulsed by the meat? Not anymore. I was for a period of time, but no, it's okay. It is what it is. My mum's dog, I can't feed him lettuce. He won't eat it, or maybe he will actually eat anything, but he needs, for his health, he needs to have some of that dog food and things. I'm not repulsed by it, but I'm not going to eat it. I'm not going to spread it on my toast. Okay. Anyway, what the other ones here, attachment to loved ones, to enemies and friends. That should be obvious from the loving kindness meditation that we practice. We have an attraction to our friends, our family, our loved ones, most of the time, unless we're arguing with them, then maybe it's the opposite. Also to those, most people and most living beings we probably regard as strangers, really. We don't think about them. And maybe we really need to think about caring for those beings as well more, okay? Without attachment, without aversion. And then, of course, as mentioned before in the meditation, we have an aversion towards so-called enemies. Let's give up this. This is part of being distracted. It's impermanent. These feelings that we have are impermanent. Those living beings also change. Sometimes they can change for the better, sometimes, unfortunately, for the worse. Constantly changing, okay? Our bodies, like mentioned, constantly changing. Our possessions also changing. Those things that we, want to keep all the time, they're actually changing. It's like if you get a new car, for instance, as soon as you drive it out of the sales yard, then it's already old, it's already changed, even though it doesn't appear so for some time. If somebody accidentally scratches your car, then you tend to get upset about it, rather than thinking, oh, things changing, people make mistakes, It's need to be forgiving of yourself, of others, etc., etc. And so I've written quite a few notes here, and I'll get through a few more in the next 6 minutes. So if we genuinely are aiming for enlightenment, always keep this in mind. Aspire to practice in solitude, if you can, or in a quiet place in your home. Like I said, unless you're a very experienced practitioner, it's really, really helpful for us to find a really quiet spot and really put time aside to practice. Okay, so if we really are genuinely aiming towards enlightenment. Now, I like to say, if you're climbing a ladder, aim for the 10th step on the way, the highest step. And then you will experience all of the steps along the way. So if for instance, if your intention is to practice the Dharma to achieve happiness, to give up some form of suffering or whatever, or level of suffering, then actually this is maybe down lower, isn't it? So really, even though we don't know exactly what it is yet, aim for enlightenment. And then you will experience all of this happiness, okay? Along the way. So you could say, like, if you aim for the highest, then you will experience all of the good conditions of all of the steps along the way, okay? So don't worry about that. Aim for the top. The next bit is, no matter how many possessions we have or accumulate, or the wealth that we may have, we only ever need necessities for one person. Even though we had families, things like that, take that in consideration as well. But actually the necessities for one person is all you really need, isn't it? We need the Dharma practice for our mind especially. But from a physical point of view, we just need water, we need food, we need shelter, and we need to have some rest, some sleep. These are the requisites. And of course, then everything else that we think we need, or you could say that we need, is conditional, isn't it? It's we need to have a computer to do this class, for instance. If you want to get around different parts of the town or the city that you live in, or the countryside or whatever, then maybe you need a car or some form of transport. Yeah, but that's secondary to the requisites. And so just remind yourself of this. It's fine to have all of your possessions. That's fine. Just try to give up the attachment by being distracted by them. The next bit is don't waste the merit that we have accumulated already in previous lifetimes, the good karma, the good conditions we've created in this lifetime as well. Don't waste it on meaningless possessions. Just because you have certain amount of wealth or certain good conditions, this is because of previous good karma. Don't waste the other previous good karma you have, or present good karma, good conditions that you have. Don't waste it on being attached and always thinking about possessions. Actually utilize these good conditions to practice the Dharma, practice meditation, then it's kind of like a bank account. If you waste all of the money in the bank, then you end up with nothing, maybe even end up owing. But if you keep putting money in the bank, then you can utilize it. This is like continuing to practice Dharma. Okay. We need this merit for practice in this life as well as in future lifetimes. Very important to know this. Okay. And also base the practice on refuge. Remember, that's very important all the time, and especially basing it on the bodhicitta intention. But the refuge in the Buddha, the great teacher of these times, and you could say the Buddhas, previous Buddhas, present Buddhas, and future Buddhas, and your own enlightened nature. You are a future Buddha too. And then also the Dharma, the precious, immaculate teachings that actually are in your own mind, ultimately. But of course, we have the physical books on the internet. When we hear the teachings, hearing it through your hearing ability and deep into your mind, but actually the Dharma's deep in your mind. It's already there, So you take refuge in the Dharma and also take refuge in the Sangha, both from an ordinary point of view of all Buddhist practitioners, as well as monastic practitioners and teachers, but also in the Bodhisattvas, the high level, the Arya Sangha, as we say. Okay, so we are now probably about 30 seconds to go. And so I rejoice in your meritorious goodness as always. Continue to practice as well as you can. Study as much as you can without being too much. Put whatever you learn into practice consistently, constantly if possible. Okie doke. And so we'll continue this discussion on concentration next week. I look forward to seeing you.